All right, Caleb, welcome to class. Thank you for having your materials and being ready. So there is a reward for that. So today we're going to talk about the Earth systems. First, we're going to kind of refresh our memory about the Earth systems. Have you heard of any of these vocabulary words? Force, gravity?
Yeah.
Okay, could you tell me a little bit about those?
You know, gravity is basically like say you're in space or something, and then like, no, isn't it gravity like basically you're in the like, oh my god, I can't think right now.
So gravity is like a force that pulls things down to the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about forces, like force? So we just kind of talked about gravity. That is a type of force. Force is when is a natural power that acts on objects. So that's the definition of force. So you've heard that one before?
Yeah.
Okay. So that just kind of brings us to our lesson today, the Earth systems. Before we start, we did a little quick review. We're going to look at the big questions. Then we're going to talk about our new vocabulary words, and then we'll read page 4 through 9. And then we'll do a review of our lesson at the end. So the first thing, let's look at our big idea. Now that we've gone and done our review, what are the main parts of the Earth system? So these are things we want to look at as we're going through and reading today. We want to stop, talk about these. These are like the big important ideas. And then how do constructive and destructive forces change Earth? And then these are our vocabulary words. So we'll talk about our new vocabulary words. We have system, energy, atmosphere, geosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, constructive force, and destructive force. Have you heard of any of those vocabulary words before?
Yeah.
What ones?
Energy, atmosphere, system, biosphere, hydrosphere.
Okay, can you tell me more about any of those?
Well,
Anything you know about those?
energy is basically like the Earth's like it's like kind of like Earth energy. I don't even know right now. No, not really. I can't really think right now.
Okay, so when I think of energy, I think of like energy from the sun or energy like that. What about atmosphere? Have you heard of atmosphere before?
Yeah.
What do you think of when you think of atmosphere?
Like sometimes when they say like the Earth's atmosphere, like kind of like, isn't it like technically like round?
Yeah, so it's
kind of like
yep.
that?
So our atmosphere is kind of what surrounds Earth. It has it's made up of gases, and it also is a protective layer that protects us from things coming from space and hitting into Earth. What about geosphere? Have you ever heard that word before?
No.
So geosphere is part of the Earth system, and it's kind of like I think of rocks when I think of geosphere. It's like the rocks on Earth, the land masses on Earth. What about hydrosphere? Have you ever heard of that before? So hydrosphere is pretty much anything that has to do with water on Earth as part of the Earth system. It has anything to do with water. What about biosphere?
No, really, not heard that either.
Okay, so biosphere is all of these working together. It's all of them together. So you have the hydrosphere, you have your atmosphere, and then you have a lithosphere, or it's similar to like a geosphere. It's the land mass, and it's all of them together. What about constructive forces? Have you ever heard of that before? So when I think of constructive forces, I think of something like a force that builds something up like a mountain or something like that. That's what I think of with constructive forces. What about destructive forces?
Destructive force?
Yes.
Isn't it like basically like destructive, like can't force it kind of?
Yeah. So destructive means it wears something down or breaks something down. When I think of that, I think of like erosion. Have you heard of erosion before? So erosion is a destructive force. It's not building something up, it's wearing it down. So we've talked about our vocabulary words, and we're going to see these as we're reading through our lesson. So let's open up our book to page 4, and let's start reading page 4.
Alright, there we go.
Yep.
What are the main parts of the Earth system? The Grand Canyon is made up of different parts. Rock forms the canyon walls. Water flows through the canyon in the form of a river which carves away the rock. Animals such as deer drink the river's water, and air fills in the canyon, allowing the animals to breathe. All these parts work together so the environment of the Grand Canyon can be thought of as a system. A system is a group of parts that work together as a whole. Figure 1 shows how air, water, rock, and life work together in another part of Earth.
Okay. So that was one of our vocabulary words. So system. So it's all of them working together. In this picture, you can see they have like a penguin's environment or system. So that's what they're talking about with that. So let's go on to Earth as a system.
Earth as a system. The Earth system involves a constant flow of matter through different parts. For example, you may know that in the water cycle, water evaporates from the ocean, rises into the atmosphere, and then falls from the sky as rain. The rainwater that flows in to and over Earth and then back into the ocean. You might be surprised to learn that rock too cycles through the Earth system. For example, new rock can form from molten material inside Earth called magma. This material can rise to the surface and harden on land to form new rock. The new rock can then erode into small pieces. The pieces can be washed into the ocean, where they may sink to the bottom as small particles or sediment. Enough on the small particles collect. The weight of the sediment can crush all the particles together. The particles can then be cemented together to form new rock. The flow of rock through the Earth system is called the rock cycle. The constant flow or cycling of matter through the Earth system is driven by energy. Energy is the ability to do work. The energy that drives the Earth system has two main sources: heat from the sun and heat flowing out of Earth as it cools.
Okay, nice job reading. So we saw our next word. We saw energy, right? And so what does that make you think of when you think of energy? Because we kind of had a question on that before. But now that you've read that paragraph, what does that make you think of when you think of energy?
The ability to do work.
Yeah, kind of like the ability to do work. So let's flip the page, and let's read more about geosphere. What do we have? We have geosphere, we have atmosphere, and we have hydrosphere. So there's pictures right here of those. You can look at them. You have one with like oceans, one with the air, and then you have your rocks that we talked about. So if you can start reading this, and this is one of our key ideas. So we want to really pay attention to this section right here. So if you could read this, Caleb.
All right. Parts of the Earth system. Earth contains air, water, land, and life. Each of these parts form its own part or sphere. The Earth system has four main spheres: the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the geosphere, and the biosphere. As a major source of energy for Earth processes, the sun can be considered part of the Earth system as well. Each part of the Earth system can be studied separately, but the four parts are interconnected as shown in figure 2.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. So pretty much, if that's a key idea, and we're talking about Earth systems, what do you get out of that little paragraph you read?
Basically, the Earth system has spheres, and the sun can be part of it,
Yep.
and each part of it can be studied separately, and four of the parts are interconnected, and humans affect the air, water, and land, and life on Earth.
Yep. So the biggest thing I take away from that is we're talking about Earth systems, and then we have the different spheres within the Earth systems, and we have a few of them right here in front of us. So if you can continue reading, right here, atmosphere.
Earth's outrageous layer is a mixture of gases, mostly nitrogen and oxygen. It also contains dust particles, cloud droplets, and the rain and snow that form from water vapor. It contains Earth's weather and is the foundation for the different climates around the world. Earth's atmosphere is the relatively thin envelope of gases that form Earth's outermost layer.
All right. So we did talk about that, about how the atmosphere has different gases. And it even contains like dust particles, as it said in our book. And now let's move on to geosphere. So right here, Caleb, geosphere.
Nearly all Earth's mass is found on Earth's solid rocks and mantles. In addition to other materials, Earth's geosphere has three main parts: a metal core, a solid middle layer, and a rocky outer layer.
So let's keep going. Let's finish.
About 3/4 of Earth is covered by a relatively thin layer of water. Earth's water can take the form of oceans, glaciers, rivers, lakes, groundwater, and water vapor. On the surface water, most is the salt water of the ocean. Only a tiny part of the hydrosphere is fresh water that is drinkable by humans. The hydrosphere contains all of Earth's water.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the different spheres, the biosphere is all of them combined. So give me a thumbs up if that makes sense to you, or if you have any questions, you can ask me before we start moving on.
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay. All right. Well, thanks.